Hey everybody, Patty Ann here again. Remember this past Sunday when our Digi Chicks did another Digi card? Well, I said I would show you how to do the card base that Linda had used in her card. So today that's what I'm going to do. It's going to be the card base that you can make totally with your Cricut machine or your Cameo or even your portrait, which is what I'll be using to make this card base that makes a really super cute little card with lots of stuff that you can hide inside. So let's get busy. Okay, here we are in Silhouette. Let's begin building the base of this super cool card. So the first thing that you'll want to do is you're going to cut a piece, or you're going to get a piece of cardstock, right? And cardstock, as you know, measures 8.5 by 11. So I'm going to bring out a rectangle here, and I'm going to come up here and resize it to 8.5 inches wide, hit enter, and 11 inches tall. So it's 8.5 by 11. The next thing I'm going to do is I'm just going to go ahead and grab it and come up here and say center. Okay, so now it's centered perfectly on my portrait mat. Next thing I'm going to do is I'm going to make it a lighter color so we can see more easily what I'm doing. And maybe even a little lighter than that. Let's see. Here we go. Okay, the next thing I need to do is I need to score it on the 11-inch side. So that's this long side right here. So an easy way to get started doing that is just come up here to the page setup and change my orientation here and make it landscape like that, and then make my paper landscape as well. So I'll just hold down my shift key, and while I'm holding that down, I'll come up here to this little green circle, whoopsie, and rotate this so it fits perfectly like that. And again, I can grab it and center it just like that. Okay, so now this should be, when I click on it, at the X and Y position of 0, 0, which means the very tip of this is at the 0 mark and in and down. Okay, so my directions say to score on the 11-inch side at 2.5 inches. So I'm going to get a line here and come up here to this and hold down my shift key and just draw a line. And I'm going to go ahead and make that line green because I always make my score lines green, and I'm going to make it a dash line so I know it's a score line. Now, hopefully this is light enough that you can see that. The next thing I'm going to do though is I'm going to change my X and Y position now. So I want my Y to be 0 because that's at the very tippy top. That's how far up and down it is. My X tells how far left or right it goes, and the directions said to put my first mark at the 2.75, and I'll hit enter, and notice it pops right over there where I want it to be. So I'm going to duplicate that one by going Control D on my keyboard, and that's been duplicated. And now I'm going to change that 5. Wait a minute, let's see. Hold on one second, Aaron. 5.5 and hit enter, and that popped that right over there. Okay, with that one done, I'm going to duplicate it by hitting Control and D. That duplicated that, and I'm going to change not its Y position but its X position, because my directions say that my next score line should be at the 8.25 mark. So I'm just going to type in 8.25 and hit enter. So now my 3 score lines have been placed on my paper. And I'm going to change the color of this paper and make it a little bit lighter yet. So maybe you can see it even better. There we go. Now you maybe can see those score lines better. All right, I'm going to go ahead and group those together. Group everything. So I've selected everything and I'm going to group it. Because the next thing it says for me to do is to turn my paper so that I'll be scoring on the 8.5 side. So the first thing I'm going to do is change my orientation of my mat. Then I'm going to change the orientation of my paper. So I'm going to hold down the Shift key on my keyboard while I do this, and it's going to pop right into place, up and down. And again, I'll grab this, and I'll come up here and say Center to Page. So right now, if I click on this, this should be at the 0, 0 position. So let me fix it a little bit. 0, the 0x and the 0y positions. So now it says on this side, I'm supposed to score on the 8.5 side at 4 1/4. So again, I'll get a line, come up here, hold down my Shift key so it's nice and straight, and just draw a line like that. Then with that line selected, I'll go ahead and change that line color to the green. And furthermore, I'm going to change it to a dashed line. And the last thing I'm going to do, of course, is to go ahead and change this to the 4.25. Okay, so right now, again, it should be at the 0 mark here for the Y. And for the X, it should be at 4.25, enter. Perfect, just like that. Okay, so we have all of our score lines made. Now the next thing the directions say to do is to cut on the 4.25 score line from the first score line, which is right here, to the last score line, which is right here. Okay, so what I'm going to do is just get the line again, and I'm going to come over here because I'm going to go from here to here, as I said, so I can scroll in a little further if I want to. So it's from here to here, and it's really easy to match up these crosshairs, as you can see, to make sure they're just exactly pretty much where I want them to be. So I'm going to click on that, hold down my Shift key so I get a nice straight line, come all the way down here till I get exactly where I want to be, which is right there, and let go. Now while that's still selected, I'm going to change its line color to red. I'll make it this top red. I always have my line color where it's going to be a cut red. So I'm going to leave that just like that. Okay, so I'm going to go ahead and group these together now. And that pretty much is it, because let's go to send and see what we have. Oh, so when I come over here, and if it automatically comes in as simple, you'll see that everything is showing up as red. Okay, if I go to line color now, I have some different line colors that show up. So I can do these one at a time. And I believe I'm going to show you that in a little bit, how I go through these one by one. So let's go back. Okay, the next thing I'm going to do is I'm going to make the crosshairs that are going to go in our card. And you might be thinking, why in the world would I go to all this trouble? Well, one of the great things about designing things in the software is if you want to make the same card a bunch of times, or if in a week from now you want to make the same card, or even a month from now, all you have to do is open this particular file that you've saved and send it to your machine. Your machine will cut it, will score it, and you'll be ready to go. You won't have to measure a thing then. Once you do the hard work and then initially and save it, you're good to go. So in order to make the crosshairs, or the crossbars, what I'm going to do is come over here to the rectangle tool, draw out a rectangle, and according to the instructions, the rectangle is supposed to be 3.75 tall. So I'll make this 3.75 tall by 3 inches wide. All right, so it's 3.75 by 3. And I'm going to go ahead and change the color of it to match this one's color. Furthermore, while it's selected, I'm going to move it so that it'll be in the upper left-hand corner. So I'll change my Y position to 0 and hit enter, and my X position to 0 and hit enter. So it's right up there in the very top. Now, according to the instructions, I'm supposed to make 2 score lines, or 2 fold lines. The first one is going to be here. I'm going to draw a line while I hold down my Shift so it's nice and straight. I'm going to change its color to green because that's the color I like to make my score lines, and I'll make it dashed so it makes it really easy to see. The final thing I'm going to do is make sure that X position is at 0. That's how far left and right. My Y position of that, I want to have that at 0.5 or half an inch down from the top. So 0.5, like that. Perfect. Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to duplicate that one, hit Control and the letter D on my keyboard. I'll make the X position, the side-to-side position, a 0 and hit Enter. And then I want it to be at half an inch from the bottom of this. Well, I happen to know that if you have 3.75 and you minus a half an inch from that, that gives you 3.25. So that's where I'm going to go. Okay, for my Y position, I'm going to come up here and say 3.25 and Enter. And then it's perfect. This is a half an inch from the bottom, and this is a half an inch from the top. So I can group these together if I want to. And the next thing I'm going to do is I'm going to make some cuts. So I'll come over here and get the line tool again, start up here at the top, hold down my Shift key and make a line all the way down. I'm going to change that to red because I like my cut lines to be red. And according to the instructions here, that cut line's supposed to be 0.75 inches away from the left. So remember, the Y is how far up and down it is, so I'll make that a 0. And the X position is how far to the left or right it is. And I'm going to make that 0.75 and hit Enter. Okay. Now I need to make 2 more. So I'm going to hold down Control and the letter D to duplicate. And this one is supposed to be at the X position of 1.5. And hold down Control and D to duplicate the last one. Now this last one here, click on it, it's going to be at 2, let's come up here to the X and fix that, 2.25, Enter. Okay, so we have these 3 lines that are going to be cut. So I would always score it first and then I'll cut. So I'm going to group all these together. So I want you to remember now, since this is 0.75 inches tall or wide here, and this is going to be my cross, I don't want that to show inside. So when I make my circle over here, I'm going to make sure that the circle doesn't come down within that area. So let me show you what I'm going to do. Let's move this off. What I like to do is this. I like to come over here and get a rectangle, make the rectangle a certain width, and that width is, well, it could be 0.75, the same as what each one of these is going to be, but I'm going to make it a little bit bigger to keep my circle up just a hair bit higher. So I'm going to make the width up, backspace, I'll do 0.8, so it's just a hair taller, and I'm going to hit Enter. So now I'll know when I have this here, I don't want my circle to be, and I can make that longer if I want to, because I'm going to make 2 circles, any lower than that. So now I'm going to come over here and get a circle tool, the circle, and I can make it a regular circle if I want to, or I can make it an oval if I'd like. I'm going to make mine an oval, and I can bring it right down like that. The other thing that I do like to do is I can just eyeball that and make sure it's in the center. If I want it dead in the center, what I could do is come over here, get a rectangle, and draw a rectangle that's exactly this size here. And then I can bring this right down here. I'll actually bring my circle to the top, bring it to the front, and I'll bring this right here. So now what I could do, if I want to make sure that it's totally centered from the right and the left, just click on the rectangle, hold down my Shift, click on the circle, and come up here and center. And now that's centered perfectly. So I can actually just duplicate another one of these, and then all I have to do is hold down my arrow key and I can shift this one right down here so I know it will be exactly the same spot. Of course, there's many ways to fix that. And now it went too far, but again what I could do is just bring this rectangle right back up in here. So it's centered right in there. Click on the rectangle, hold down my shift, get the circle, and just come up here and tell them to center this like that. And then I can grab both of these together and move them like this. Okay, so that, whoopsie, I moved them a little bit that way though. All right, so what I can do now, as I said before, I can actually take this, click on this one, and align these to the left so that they're perfectly aligned like that. I can remove this, and then all I want to do is cut these out of my backing piece. So I'll select this, hold down my shift key and select the backing, and come over here to modify and subtract. Gone. This, shift, backing, subtract, gone. Okay, I've placed my cardstock on my paper and I'm going to feed it in to my portrait. And if you look up here at my screen, I only have the score lines highlighted so far, right? Because that's the first thing I'm going to do is just the score lines. So I'm waiting for my machine to reconnect. Okay, it's ready, and as you can see up here, I have it set to score, and my same auto blade is what's in there because it's going to cut in a little dashed lines. So let's just hit this and say send. And it says some of the cut lines are outside or overlapping. Is that okay? Yes, it is, I know. Okay, once the score lines are done, what I'm going to do now is uncheck the green, and I think I will do these purple ones next. So I'm going to check the purple. Notice it's on auto cut, or I want it on cut, and it's cardstock heavy, and I'm going to up my blade depth just a little bit because this is a little bit thicker cardstock, and I'm just going to say send. And we'll see how they do. And as I say, I will like to check these before I totally take this out to make sure they cut properly. Okay, I can pretty much see that these cut perfectly just like that. So I can take them both out if I want to, or leave them in. The next thing I'm going to do is uncheck the purple, and I'll do the red cut. Okay, I have another red cut over there on the other side. So that's not this red, because notice it did not get highlighted. So I'll uncheck that one, and I'll check this one. Perfect. Now that's highlighted. I want it to be cut and cardstock textured, and I'll make this up a little higher and say send. And I wasn't able to do a test on this piece because the whole sheet makes up the card. So if I wanted to do a test, if I needed to, which I usually do, I would have done it on another little piece of paper of the exact same cardstock. Okay, so that should be it, and that should have cut perfectly, which it did. So I can take this out now and turn this. I'll just move this over temporarily and show you what to do next. So this is our card base. We can save these little circles for something else at some point. Move my mat. And let's see. The next thing I want to do is just to fold this in half first on the score lines and make sure that these things match up well. Okay, just to make sure the score lines were right where they should be. Here we go. And I could use a bone folder or my scissors or my fingernails, as long as my fingernails aren't painted. Have you ever done that before with painted nails and used your nails for something and it messed it up? Okay, I've opened it back up, and now I'm going to fold on all of my score lines. Okay, so there's one here. I made them very shallow, so they're a little bit hard to see. But if I look carefully, I can. So there's one. Make sure again that this line is lining up. And of course I can use my bone folder. So there's one. And then I'll fold this one in as well on both sides. Make sure this folds up like this to meet. And this as well. Okay. And now I can fold this piece the opposite way if I'd like. It's a little harder to fold it once you've cut these circles out than if I use some other way to cut the circles, but it's doable. Like that. And then once I've done that, I'll just fold this in half like this. And there is our piece ready for the inside parts. And if I want to, I could take my bone folder and just make sure that these are all folded nicely. Like that. And there it is. Perfect. Now let's go back up to my screen. Let's go to Design. I'm going to take this off the mat and put this part on the mat. And I'll just cut these. And so I need some more paper on here. So once again, I'm using an 8.5 by 11 sheet of paper. So I'll just put this on my mat, lining it up perfectly like that. And I'll put this in my machine and hit send, and I'll be back when it's done. So I'll hit send up here. And again, let's see. First I'm going to do the green, which are the score lines. And I'm going to lower that down just a little bit. And I'm going to say send. Whoa, oh yeah, score, okay. Okay, and then after that is done, which it is done, I'm going to do the red lines, which are these red lines now, and they're going to be cuts and textured paper, and move this up a little bit because of my particular blade and how old it is. You'll have to check your own blade to see what works best for you. So I'll say send. Okay, that is finished, so I'll uncheck that. And the final thing I'm going to do is the black outline here. And I must have it outside of the line for cuts, but that's okay. I can fix that later. So I'll just say send. Yes. See that little line there? If we look, I'll show you what I'm talking about. Okay, let's look back up here at Design. And I want to show you. Let's see if we scroll way in. That line should be outside of the cut line. Let's see if it is. Yeah, see, if I scroll way in, you'll notice this is just on the outside edge of the cut line, and that's why that didn't cut right there. But that's okay, because I can cut it myself. So let's bring it over here and see what we've got. Oops, all of these except for the one that didn't cut because I didn't have it off to the side enough. So what I'm going to do is take these three, and you know, I could put 4 in this, but maybe I'll just do 3. Let me think. If I want to do 4, all I have to do is take this one that didn't cut all the way because, you know, of my error. I can line this one up with here with this one, and then just bring a pair of scissors over here, use this as my guide, and just cut right along here. So then it's the exact width that I need for all 4 of them. Okay, so the next thing you do is you just take these, remember you put score lines on them. So you're just going to fold it in, trying to be very careful here so that they match up perfectly, not crooked. Okay, and then find this one. Where's the score line? There it is. Make sure that it matches up perfectly and doesn't go crooked. Again, I can use my finger, I can use my scissors, or a bone folder. So there's one, and I'll do this to all four, making sure they line up nicely. Okay, and this one. And this one. And the last one, like that. Oh, one more. Okay. So to glue these inside of your card, it's really easy. And I'll show you that step now. So what you'll do is you'll open this up like this. You want, let's see, this part to be up at the top and this at the bottom. Remember, there are 1, 2, 3, 4 sections. You're going to start in section number 2. Get out your glue, and you're going to simply put glue on one of these little end pieces. Once you have glue on there, you're going to come over here where that fold line or the score line is. You're going to start this right there at that score line. Okay, you don't want it to go over the score line because you want that to be able to fold perfectly, and you want to make sure that this is lining up perfectly with the bottom or the base of your card. So there's one done like that. So then all you do is fold it over like this, get the second one in line, put some glue on that little end tab, and bring it up so that it just meets the first one right here. Put it there. You don't want them to overlap at all. Fold this one down like this to make sure that you have it so it's perfectly in line with the bottom of your card. Okay, like that. And then when that's ready, you can fold that one up like that. Get the next one, glue, and place it on here. Again, making sure this matches right up with that piece, but not overlapping it at all. And then fold this down to make sure that this piece isn't going crooked one way or the other. It's staying flush with the bottom of your card perfectly, like that. Okay, and then we'll bring this up like this. And then the last piece, same thing, like this. Glue on the tab, bring it down, put it right up against the other one. Take a close-up picture of that in a sec. Okay, there we go. So I want to show you this very close. This tab, let's see if I can point it out with these. This little place right here is meeting up with this one before it, but not overlapping it at all. Okay, just like that. And I'm making sure that this lines up perfectly with the bottom. I'm going to let that dry for just a second. And then while that is drying just for a sec, I'm going to go ahead and push these back like this. Okay, and then the next one back. And again, I'm making sure that they're still beautifully aligned with the bottom of the card. And I'm making sure that none of these overlap. Okay, let's see, is that one? That one seems to be overlapping a little. I always have trouble with the second one for some reason. So all you have to do, if one of yours seems like it gets caught just a hair, what you can do is take this one here and just trim it just a little teeny weeny bit, just a little sliver off of there. And that'll make it so it'll be freed up and it won't get stuck at all. So then the only other thing you have to do is, I always do this incorrectly, I think. Yeah, because I want this part to be the part that pooches out. So I'm going to change this to make it fold the other way. Okay, like that. All right, so what I'm going to do is just fold this down totally like this and glue it on the bottom of these guys right here. Okay, so again, I'm making sure that everything's lined up nicely. and looks beautiful. So now I'm just going to put some glue on these tabs like this, and then bring this piece down and glue those just like that, and beautifully hold it down for a moment or two. All right, and then when we open this card, and this is why I wanted the front to fold forward, because the card is going to open, and let me show you just a sec. Let me fold it this way. Okay, it's going to open just like this. You see that? Or if you like to, you can have the something hanging down from the top right there. Whichever way you want it to be. But that is a beautiful start for your card. So let's continue on and start decorating it. Okay, just so you know, for my card, when it opens up, it opens like this. I planned on having a piece of printed paper here and here. Okay, and if I'd like to, I could also close this up the way it would come in an envelope and cut more of these that would go on the front here and here. Okay, and then on the back as well. So I'm going to show you how I knew what size to make these. So follow me up to my screen. And if you'll see, notice up here, I've made the outline or the line color, the green of the score lines thicker. And you know how to do that because I've taught this before. I just came up here where it said point size, and I changed it from a 0, which is a point size that would not print at all, to a 4.0, just for you to be able to see it while I'm showing you what I would do here. So in order to figure out what size these were, of course, I can look back on the measurements that I had originally, and heaven only knows where I put those. Oh, here they are. So originally, I put my score lines, well, let's turn this like this, because originally what I did was I put a score line at 2.7 inches, 2.75, and then another 5.5. So each one of these is 2.75 inches wide, and then I scored it in the middle at the 4.25 side. So let me show you what that means. If I come over here and get a rectangle, right, or a square, and I draw it out, and I come up here, make sure the lock is unlocked, and remember I said this was 4.25 tall. I'm going to make this the height 4.25 and hit enter. And that's how tall it was. And as I said, the width on these when I made them was 2.75 inches wide. So I'll change the width to 2.75 and hit enter. Now that's the exact size of what is right here. And obviously I do not want my piece of cardstock or my pretty print paper to be that exact size. I'd like it to leave a little white border around it. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to bring this over here so you can see easily, and I'm just going to add an offset to this, but not an external or a regular offset. I'm going to add an internal one or an inside one. So watch. I'm going to come over here to the offset panel, and notice there's the regular offset. It's off the edge. I'm going to do the internal one that's going to put the offset inside, internal. So I'm going to click on that, and notice it put a line inside of that box I already have. And I do like the corners to be like this, sharp corners, so I'll leave it like that. Now while that offset is selected, I'll come up here to the upper left-hand corner and just to change the color of it to something else like that. Okay, so that's the size that I'm going to make my pretty print paper or colored cardstock. And it's going to fit on the front, that one place that I showed you. And if I hold down my Alt key, I can drag another one to the other front part where I showed you. Okay, I wanted you to look up at my screen one last time. I used some images from Dina at Digi Doodle Studios, just like Linda did in our Digi Chicks Club, our Digi Club, this past Sunday. And I'll have a link for that for you right up above. But anyway, I went ahead, this is how it came in, and I colored it with my computer. I got this, and it came in black and white, and I colored it with my computer. The same thing with the giraffe and the lion. One of the things now that I did with the lion and the giraffe when I went to print them was I came back up here to the page setup panel, and I of course put on my registration marks by coming to the third button over. But in addition to doing that, I said to print bleed. Right here it says print bleed, and I left this at the default that it came up as. Okay, so let's go now to my other screen and let me show you the card that's finished and how the print bleed worked, and that'll be about it. So let me tell you now, thanks for joining me. Thanks for subscribing. Thank you for all your ongoing support. I'm so thrilled to have gotten to 40,000 subscribers. I just can't believe it. It's wonderful. Thank you, you guys. Okay, let's go look at the card. Okay, first I wanted to show you how the print bleed worked. Do you see this black? I didn't want any white to show around the images at all, so I had print bleed on and I made the extra black outline print so that when it cut, especially around these leaves, it didn't leave any white showing whatsoever, and it turned out beautifully. So let me show you now the card again. I think it turned out really cute. Now for this card, I ended up, instead of having the two panels, I ended up merging them together, or actually welding them together and making them one. It does fold right there, but it doesn't matter. And I did the print and cut with the leaves and the saying and the greenish color of the backing. But I did add a couple more leaves to make it a little bit more 3D. Maybe you can see those. Just I thought make it a little bit more fun looking. So that's how cute it is. And when you open it up, it looks like this. And let's see. So you can see all the little guys in there. There's the little giraffe peeking in the tree way in the back. Little girl. It's really super cute, I think. And then I just did the leaves many more times here to kind of tie it all together. So I thought it kind of looked kind of cool. And then this is over here, some foiled lettering. But isn't that cute? Look how cute. I think it's super adorable. I'd be lying if I didn't say I miss you. So that's how easy it is to make this card. I hope you enjoyed it. Thanks again for joining me. See y'all again soon. Bye.